This video addresses several safety violations observed on a construction job site. Firstly, let's discuss the equipment hazards. The observation of drywall tapers using stilts with buckets screwed to the bottom to increase height is a significant safety concern. Stilts themselves can be hazardous if not used correctly, and modifying them in this manner introduces instability. Secondly, electrical hazards are prevalent. The presence of cords with broken ground pins and 16-gauge cords, many of which are plugged in backwards, poses a serious risk of electrical shock or fire. Thirdly, there are building hazards. The lack of handrails or toe boards at the elevator opening, creating a 4-foot drop, presents a full hazard. Fourthly, issues related to personal protective equipment, or PPE, are also present. Although hard hats are required, they are not worn by most trades. Furthermore, workers are wearing shorts and sneakers, which are dress code violations. The general contractor, or GC, is failing to adequately enforce safety, prioritizing production over safety. There is potential for undocumented workers and concern for immigration. Addressing the responsibility for code violations, OSHA may hold the electrical contractor, or EC, partially responsible for the code violations, as they are the electrical experts on the job. However, the ultimate responsibility lies with the general contractor for ensuring a safe work environment. Several recommendations can be made to improve the safety of the job site. The equipment hazard should be addressed immediately. The stilts should be inspected and modified or replaced if necessary to ensure they are safe for use. All damaged cords should be replaced or repaired and ensure they are plugged in correctly. This includes verifying the polarity of the outlets. Handrails and toe boards should be installed at the elevator opening to prevent falls. The requirement for hard hats should be enforced for all personnel on the job site. The GC should improve safety enforcement by implementing regular safety inspections and training. Consider coordinating with the INS if undocumented workers are suspected. The violations should be reported to OSHA for further investigation and enforcement. Specifically, regarding the electrical hazards, several aspects should be considered. The use of extension cords should comply with OSHA regulations and the National Electrical Code, or NEC. Section 5.16 of the OSHA Regulations on Electrical Safety addresses the use of flexible cords and cables. It states that flexible cords and cables must be protected from damage and that extension cords can only be used with portable tools and equipment. Cords should not be fastened with staples or hung in a way that could damage the outer jacket or insulation. Also, flexible cords must not be used as a substitute for the fixed wiring of a structure. The use of 16-gauge cords for heavy-duty equipment is a violation of the NEC, which specifies the appropriate conductor size for various ampacities. The NEC specifies the allowable ampacities of conductors in Table 310.13b16. This table shows that a 16-gauge copper conductor is typically only rated for a maximum of 10 to 13 amps depending on the insulation type and conditions of use. For most power tools and equipment found on a construction site, a 16-gauge cord is insufficient and could lead to overheating or even fire. Grounding is another critical aspect of electrical safety. Ground pins are designed to provide a path for fault current to return to the source, tripping the circuit breaker and preventing electrical shock. Tampering with or removing the ground pin defeats this safety mechanism and creates a dangerous condition. The practice of plugging cords in backwards is also hazardous. While some equipment may still function when plugged in backwards, it can create a shock hazard if the equipment's internal wiring is not properly insulated. In general, the hot and neutral wires are reversed, which can energize the chassis of the equipment. Regarding the GFCI outlets, while they offer some protection, they are not a substitute for proper wiring and grounding. GFCI outlets are designed to detect imbalances in current between the hot and neutral conductors, indicating a leakage of current to ground. When an imbalance is detected, the GFCI trips, cutting off the power to the circuit. However, GFCI outlets do not protect against all types of electrical shock, and they will not function properly if the wiring is incorrect. To address the electrical hazards on the job site, a comprehensive electrical safety program should be implemented. This program should include regular inspections of electrical equipment and wiring, training for all workers on electrical safety practices, and strict enforcement of safety rules. All damaged cords should be removed from service and replaced with cords of the appropriate gauge and type. All equipment should be properly grounded, and ground pins should never be removed or tampered with. GFCI outlets should be tested regularly to ensure they are functioning properly. With respect to general safety, the lack of handrails and toe boards at the elevator opening is a violation of OSHA regulations, which require full protection for any open-sided floor or platform that is 4 feet or more above the adjacent level. Handrails should be installed to provide a secure barrier to prevent workers from falling into the opening. Toe boards should also be installed to prevent tools or materials from falling into the opening, which could injure workers below. Enforcing PPE requirements is also critical for ensuring the safety of workers on the job site. Hard hats are required to protect workers from head injuries, and they should be worn at all times when workers are exposed to overhead hazards. Eye protection, such as safety glasses or goggles, should also be worn to protect workers from flying debris or other hazards. Proper footwear, such as work boots with slip-resistant soles, should be worn to protect workers from foot injuries and slits and falls. The general contractor has the primary responsibility for ensuring a safe work environment for all workers on the job site. This includes implementing a comprehensive safety program, conducting regular safety inspections, and enforcing safety rules. The electrical contractor also has a responsibility for ensuring electrical safety on the job site. This includes inspecting electrical equipment and wiring, providing training on electrical safety practices, and ensuring that all electrical work is performed in accordance with the NEC. In addition to the specific hazards mentioned, there may be other safety violations on the job site that should be addressed. These could include improper scaffolding, inadequate ventilation, or exposure to hazardous materials. A thorough safety inspection should be conducted to identify any potential hazards and take corrective action. Communicating these hazards to the general contractor and documenting these hazards can help you get to a solution. It is important to also maintain open communication with all workers on the job site to ensure that they are aware of the hazards and know how to protect themselves. Regular safety meetings should be held to discuss safety issues and reinforce safety practices. The focus is on creating a culture of safety where all workers are empowered to identify and report hazards. In summary, the safety violations observed on the construction job site pose a significant risk to the health and safety of workers. By addressing these violations and implementing a comprehensive safety program, the general contractor can create a safer work environment for all. Regarding stilts used on construction sites, OSHA has specific guidelines. Stilts are only allowed if they provide a stable working surface, are properly maintained, and are used by trained employees. The modification with buckets would almost certainly violate the stability requirement. OSHA Standard 1926.451 if it addresses stilts directly. This OSHA standard specifies that stilts should not be used unless the walking/working surface is flat and free of holes and obstructions, and that stilts should be properly maintained and in good repair. The use of buckets would compromise the stability and therefore would likely be cited by OSHA. Improper use of electrical cords is a frequent OSHA violation. Employers are required to inspect electrical equipment regularly. Damaged cords must be removed from service. The use of extension cords as permanent wiring is prohibited. Ground fault circuit interrupters, or GFCIs, are required in wet locations and for temporary wiring. Lack of fall protection is another frequent violation. Guardrails are required on open-sided platforms and runways that are 4 feet or more above the adjacent level. The handrail should be 42 inches plus or minus 3 inches in height. Toe boards must be at least 3.5 inches high. All employees exposed to fall hazards must be trained on fall protection. The failure to use required PPE is also a frequent violation. Employers must assess the workplace for hazards that necessitate the use of PPE. Hard hats are required where there is a potential for head injury from falling objects. Eye and face protection is required where there is a potential for flying particles, molten metal, or chemical hazards. High visibility clothing is required where workers are exposed to vehicular traffic. In addition to these specific violations, there are a number of other safety issues that could be present on a construction site. These could include improper scaffolding, inadequate ventilation, exposure to hazardous materials, and lack of fire protection. Employers are required to have a written hazard communication program that includes training on the hazards of chemicals used in the workplace. Employers are also required to have a fire prevention plan that includes procedures for preventing fires and for evacuating the workplace in the event of a fire. When OSHA investigates a construction site, they will typically conduct a comprehensive inspection of the entire site. The OSHA inspector will look for any violations of OSHA standards. The OSHA inspector will also interview employees to determine whether they have been properly trained on safety procedures. If OSHA finds any violations, they will issue a citation to the employer. The citation will specify the violation, the penalty for the violation, and the date by which the violation must be corrected. The employer has the right to contest the citation. If the employer contests the citation, a hearing will be held before an administrative law judge. The administrative law judge will determine whether the violation occurred and whether the penalty is appropriate. Employers are responsible for the safety and health of their employees. Construction sites are inherently dangerous workplaces. Employers must take steps to protect their employees from hazards. By following OSHA standards, employers can create a safer work environment for all. To reiterate the key points, we discussed equipment hazards, electrical hazards, building hazards, and PP issues. The general contractor has the ultimate responsibility for site safety, but electrical contractors share responsibility for electrical safety. Workers should report hazards and unsafe conditions. OSHA provides resources and enforces safety regulations. A proactive approach to safety is essential for preventing injuries and fatalities on construction sites. Construction sites are dynamic environments with ever-changing conditions. Continuous monitoring, evaluation, and adaptation of safety measures are crucial. Employers should foster a culture of safety where every worker feels empowered to identify and address potential hazards. Regular safety audits and inspections should be conducted to proactively identify and correct deficiencies. Toolbox talks and safety briefings should be held regularly to reinforce safety procedures and address emerging hazards. Collaboration between contractors, subcontractors, and workers is essential for creating a safe work environment. Open communication and mutual respect should be fostered to ensure that everyone is working together to prevent accidents. Remember that safety is not just a set of rules and regulations. It is a mindset and a way of life. By prioritizing safety, construction professionals can protect themselves, their colleagues, and the public from harm. A comprehensive safety program should include elements like hazard identification and assessment, written safety plans, employee training, regular inspections, and effective communication. Hazard identification involves recognizing potential sources of harm such as unguarded machinery, full hazards, electrical hazards, and hazardous materials. Risk assessment involves evaluating the likelihood and severity of potential injuries or illnesses associated with identified hazards. Written safety plans document the policies, procedures, and practices that are in place to prevent accidents and injuries. Employee training ensures that workers have the knowledge and skills necessary to perform their jobs safely. Regular inspections help identify and correct hazards before they lead to accidents. Effective communication ensures that everyone on the job site is aware of potential hazards and knows how to protect themselves. Implementing a comprehensive safety program requires a commitment from all levels of management. Top management must provide the resources and support necessary to ensure that the program is effective. Supervisors must be held accountable for enforcing safety rules and procedures. Workers must be empowered to identify and report hazards without fear of retaliation. By working together, everyone on the construction site can contribute to creating a safe and healthy work environment.